an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
When the Hollywood star Charlie Sheen announced he was HIV positive earlier this week on American TV, perhaps the most shocking bit of the story was the millions of dollars he'd paid out to so-called friends who'd been blackmailing him. It was especially surprising given that, thanks to medical advances, an HIV diagnosis is no longer the automatic death sentence it once was. And many of us know people who've been living with the illness for years. There are around 100,000 carrying the virus in the UK today. But have public attitudes kept up?
The days of scary HIV and AIDS awareness campaigns are behind us. But as the debate around Charlie Sheen this week has shown, HIV still has the power to grip the public imagination. We've come a long way since those campaigns. Medical breakthroughs have made the virus more manageable and harder to pass on. They've ushered in an age of nuance, and with that, confusion over what exactly constitutes safe sex.
I'm here to admit that I am, in fact, HIV positive.
An issue brought into sharp focus this week when Sheen appeared on US television to confirm that he's HIV positive.
Have you had unprotected sex on any occasion since your diagnosis?
Yes, but the two people that I did that with were under the care of my doctor, and they were completely warned ahead of time.
Cue outrage from commentators across the globe, overlooking the medical nuance of his position. So why do people with HIV still suffer such stigma?
Well, I think a lot of people who are ignorant about HIV think that if you have an HIV diagnosis, that's essentially the end of your sex life. But that's not true at all. Basically, if you're taking HIV treatment and you're adhering to it and taking it as you should, then the treatment reduces the amount of virus in your body to such an extent that you're essentially uninfectious. And that means that you're not going to pass on the virus to your partner. But people just don't understand that, which is why we've seen this outrage about people living with HIV having sex.
A drug that's in development. Despite these advances, there remains a huge stigma. Tom Hayes was diagnosed as HIV positive in 2011. It was the response to his diagnosis, rather than the diagnosis itself, that posed the biggest threat to his life.
I was out for a meal with friends and I got a text message on my phone and another one and another one, and then Facebook and Twitter started blowing up. And I checked my phone in a restaurant and it was hundreds of tweets going, Tom has HIV and he's going around infecting people. And my ex and his friend were sort of pushing us all over my social media. I was going around infecting people with HIV. And I went home and I read the messages, all, the hundreds of them coming through, and I just got more and more. I was scared and I was angry and I was upset. It just all got too much to the point where I thought I was going to take my own life. I even got to a step of getting dressed again and I was heading out the door to go and jump off a bridge in Birmingham city centre.
Tom is clear that that kind of abusive behaviour stems from widespread ignorance of HIV, both how we catch it and how we treat it, and this ignorance is reflected in recent data. According to a survey carried out last year, 28% of people think you can get HIV from kissing, 9% of people think you will die within 3 years of contracting the virus, and 17% don't know that HIV can be passed on through sex without a condom. Worryingly, 40% of adults diagnosed last year were late diagnoses, meaning they were diagnosed after they should have started life-saving treatment. They could have passed on the infection without even knowing they were carrying it.
There are targets of 90, 90, 90. So we want to get 90% of people diagnosed, 90% of people on treatment, and 90% of people with an undetectable viral load. But actually where the UK is falling behind is on getting people tested, and that's where we need to do more.
Charlie Sheen has put HIV back into the spotlight, but it may be some time before public understanding of the virus catches up with public interest in Hollywood sex lives.
Mobin Azar reporting. Well, Greg Louganis, the Olympic diver who now campaigns for the rights of people with HIV and AIDS, joins us from Los Angeles. Greg Louganis, thanks so much for joining us. It's been a couple of days since Charlie Sheen's admissions. I wondered how it's playing out over there.
You know what? It's I don't have TV, and I don't have cable, so I don't watch TV, and I don't read the tabloids. So
you don't know how it's playing out.
I have no idea how it's playing out.
Well, let's talk about your reaction then.
Yeah.
How did you react when you heard the news?
I feel bad for Charlie, that he's been keeping this secret for 4 years. I was diagnosed in 1988, 6 months prior to the Olympic Games in Seoul, Korea. I couldn't come forward with my HIV status, or I wouldn't have been able to compete at that Olympic Games. I wouldn't have been allowed into the country. But we've come so far in the advances of treatment options, as well as learning about, if you have an undetectable viral load, you're less likely to transmit the disease. We now have PrEP, but you have to take the medications as prescribed. That's something that's very important. And for a period of time through the 27 years that I've been HIV positive, it hasn't always been easy to be compliant with my HIV meds because of the side effects. But now, with the medications that are provided, I take my meds in the morning, I take my meds in the evening, and I go about the business of living.
But you say we've come so far, but I was really struck. I mean, obviously, first of all, by the fact that Charlie Sheen, it looked like he'd been forced into this. But then when he said it, he didn't say, I've come here to tell you I've got HIV, or to say I've got HIV. He said, I've come to admit I've got HIV. It's a bit of a difficult word, isn't it? Admit. Why does he have to admit it?
You know what? It's interesting being a public person. There's certain, expectations and all that. There's a difference between secrecy and privacy. And secrecy is very harmful and damaging, and as a celebrity, it's a really fine line of what secrecy and what privacy is, because everybody's entitled to a private life.
Do you think that for your campaigning, do you think it helps? Does it make a difference that he's straight?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think it helps the cause whether he's straight or gay. I don't think that is so much at issue. We're so uptight about talking about sex, our sexuality, sex. We're also inhibited about talking about addiction, depression, all of these things that that seem to be taboo topics. And I, from the interview that I did see, he did touch on those. And the doctor who is treating him said that he's more concerned about Charlie.
Greg Louganis, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I'm afraid we're out of time, which means it's the end of the program. So I have to say goodbye. I'm sorry about that. Thanks so much for joining us, though.
No problem.
I've been getting away with it all.